God has given us the great privilege of being here in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Rio is a city of 11 million people. Brazil is a nation of 200 million people, having 1/2 the population of all of South America. It also has about 1/2 of the landmass of South America. More Roman Catholics live in Brazil than any other nation in the world. More Japanese live here in Brazil, outside of Japan, than any other nation on earth. Brazil is truly influential. God has been doing a great work here in this nation. Just a few years ago, only 6% of the population were evangelical Christians. But with the spiritual awakening that God has brought about, 15% of the population, or 30 million people, are evangelical Christians now. It's projected that in the next decade, that number will double to 60 million believers. And the question is, who will lead these Christians to spiritual maturity? Who will pastor the churches? God has a strategic plan for Brazil, and that is to raise up next generation leaders in biblical leadership principles to lead his church strategically. Brazil is sending out more missionaries than any other nation on earth. And these missionaries are able to go many times to countries where Americans cannot go. Brazil is a strategic nation in the fulfillment of the Great Commission in this generation. We're here in Brazil training pastors and Christian leaders that God has put his hand on for leadership in this country and around the world. Jesus said to a group of fishermen, "Come, follow me, and I will make you to become fishers of men." And the heartbeat of many of these Christian leaders is to fulfill the Great Commission in this generation. We are privileged to have a part in training them as they seek to fulfill God's call on their lives. We are excited for the conference that's going to begin in just a little while. Pastors and Christian leaders are gathering here for our third conference, and we're going to be taking them through our third notebook. And we want you to share a little of the conference with us, so we're going to give you some exposure to the conference in just a little while.
O nível de sucesso de líder é determinado por aqueles que estão próximos dele.
Those closest to a leader
As pessoas que estão mais próximas do líder,
make him or break him.
ou elas constroem a sua liderança ou destroem.
Every person around you as a leader
Cada pessoa que está à sua volta como líder,
is either an asset or a liability.
ou é um ativo ou um passivo, um patrimônio ou algo que está ali.
When there is a problem in your ministry or organization,
Quando há um problema no seu ministério ou na sua organização,
everyone who appears on the scene brings either a pail of gasoline
qualquer pessoa que aparece perto de você ou está com um balde cheio de gasolina
or a pail of water.
ou um balde com água.
Some show up carrying a pail of water
Algumas pessoas chegam com o balde d'água
and they throw water on a heated situation and cool it down
e eles jogam água numa situação que está esquentada e resfriam as coisas
and make it better.
e tornam essa situação uma situação melhor.
However, there are those people
Contudo, há aqueles
that when there's a problem in your ministry or
que,
organization,
quando há um problema no seu ministério ou organização,
come running with a pail of gasoline
chegam com um balde de gasolina
and they throw gasoline
e eles jogam essa gasolina
and heat up the
e
situation,
então eles tocam fogo na situação
and it gets worse.
e ela piora.
Your job as a leader
A sua tarefa como líder
is to bring close to you those who are firefighters rather than firelighters.
é trazer para perto de você os bombeiros e não os incendiários.
And you need to be training those around you to throw water rather than gasoline.
E você precisa treinar as pessoas próximas a você a jogarem água ao invés de gasolina.
Sei que a tua fidelidade leva minha vida mais além do que eu possa imaginar.
Fiz o primeiro treinamento aqui.
I took the first training session, and then I committed myself to train 10 people. But I knew I wasn't going to stay just with 10 people because my church has 800 members. So I knew I would train more people. I didn't know if I was authorized to reproduce the material while I asked the leaders here, and from my church I trained about 40 people, and then a colleague from mine brought more 40 people to be trained in my church. So we had a list of 120 people. So we delivered, at the end of the training, we had 102 certificates ready. So there were 102 people being trained. And these people, they liked very much the training process. Well, what we receive here, we cannot keep to ourselves. We need to share this. And that's what I did. I shared, and thank God for this. And today I'm leaving here intending to train more people, to train more than 100 people. And I'm thankful to God because of this opportunity to be trained here. And I ask God to bless John Maxwell's life. Because of him, now we can have this training here. So we're privileged people.
Faz os teus servos frutíferos, Senhor. Traz uma unção de frutificação.
I have Pastor Elio from Rio de Janeiro with me, and he's been in our leadership training conference. Pastor, tell us what you've been learning and what you've been doing with what you've learned.
Ok, tem sido privilégio muito grande para nós, porque eu estou apenas
It's been a real
há 3
privilege
anos no
to us
Ministério
because I've
Pastoral,
only been in the pastoral ministry
e
for 3 years,
começamos com essas ferramentas do
and we
Ministério,
started with these
praticando já
tools of the
uma
training.
liderança
We've been
de formação de
practicing
40
it,
pessoas.
training 40
Formamos
people
40
in our
pessoas.
church.
Dessas 40 pessoas, nós temos
In these
60% já
40,
liderando
60%
efetivamente
are already
com a
effectively
igreja,
leading
já
the
exerce uma
church.
liderança na igreja.
They have a
E as
leadership
demais,
position at the
40%
church,
estão
and
em
the other
formação
40% are
para
being
que
trained
possam estar assumindo
so
novos
that
cargos
they
posteriores.
can
E
take
o nosso
on other
crescimento da
positions.
igreja, que tem
And in the
apenas
church
2 anos,
growth, in only
e quando
2
começamos com
years,
essa ferramenta,
when we started
apenas
using these
ano,
tools a
2
year
meses,
or
nós
a year, 2
crescemos de
months,
15 pessoas
we went from 15
para
members
140 pessoas.
to 140 members.
Wonderful. Well, God bless you in the days ahead.